Hello, and welcome to Amputee for Life, created to focus on members of the limb loss community and those who support them. We will feature testimonials from amputees, family members, and professionals working within the limb loss community, and include strategies, ideas, and heartfelt stories in the hope of providing greater awareness around the lives of some of the most amazing and resilient people on earth. My name is Jared Taylor, and I will be your host. Want to introduce a real special guest I have today, prosthetist and creator of a revolutionary prosthetic technology and owner of Slingshot Bionics, Jay Martin, who has created a type of socketless socket in 2014, and now he's moved on to a more advanced socket called the Slingshot Socket. Jay, welcome to Amputee for Life. I'm honored to have you with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure again to be here with you.
Absolutely. It's a thrill for me. So I just had a few questions for you, and then I'm just going to let you take it away and promote your product here because I am very excited to hear more about the Slingshot Socket. But first, I wanted to ask you, how did you get involved with supporting the limb loss community?
Well, as a clinical practitioner, I've been a practitioner since 1999, so a long time. And I think even as an early young practitioner, I recognized that prosthetics is a field that is fascinating. There's amazing advanced technology, but it is really so far different than what God gave us originally. So there's a lot of room for innovation. And I'm kind of an inventor by heart. I love creating, I love innovating. And I saw that there's a lot of opportunity for advancing the field of prosthetics. And so I've really focused a lot of my career, a lot of my time and attention on working on advancing designs that would be, ultimately give quality of life back to amputees.
That's what it sounds like. And you mentioned being an inventor, and so I wanted to ask you because I read on your website that you had worked with NASA creating exoskeleton suits for military and space applications.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Oh, it's such a fun season. Yeah, so I got a remarkable opportunity to work with NASA for about 3 years, designing exoskeleton suits. I got invited into the program, so these range from exoskeleton suits for astronauts to wear to help them exercise in space, to military applications to give kind of superhuman capabilities. Really cool, fun season working with them. Those programs were maybe my most mentally exhausting work I've ever done. They had a very large budget to accomplish the impossible in a very short period of time. So we had to really think ultra creatively, really push the limits on what was possible. And through those programs, I created and discovered kind of new ways of fitting man and machine interfaces with compliant dynamic materials. That's a lot of what the programs are about, is compliant dynamic fabric-based elements to exoskeletons. And that's a very challenging element because you have all these forces on the exoskeleton, both the motors and the actuators, lifting superhuman capabilities, and then you have to wear that device comfortably around the dynamic human body. And so I found some ways of meshing man and machine with compliant dynamic materials to actually provide greater biomechanics, great control and capture around the body, but then also having the full comfort in using those types of devices. And so I transitioned what I created and discovered on those programs into a new way of fitting prosthetics in 2015 timeframe. I launched the socketless socket technology. It's amazing socket design. It really, I grew that brand and that technology and continued to innovate that over a decade. And then I exited there a couple of years ago to start this new venture, Slingshot Bionics. With this technology, I wanted to take socket design to that next level. I found the challenges that we had in the prior designs. It was a great design in a lot of ways. It still is a great design, but there were some inherent challenges that we had that really kind of centered around making comfort accessible to that global amputee population. The limits that it had to preventing that from the full kind of mission of why I developed that technology in the first place. That technology still requires a prosthetist to fit, still requires traditional fabrication methods, and that is fine and good, but that is not going to scale in a way to serve the global amputee population, which the majority of them just don't have access to prosthetics. And so I exited Martin Bionics, started Slingshot Bionics, and really with a blank canvas from a design standpoint. And I said, let me just create a whole new platform of technology that is simple enough even for an amputee to fit themselves, which then provides more accessibility to that global amputee population. But I wanted to have a socket design that was even more comfortable, building upon what I had learned and discovered prior, but really designing a whole new platform to accomplish that. And so this latest socket design is it's my favorite work I've had yet. The outcomes are incredible, and I think we accomplished our goals. I think we're really on a path of providing accessibility for that global amputee population, both here in the U.S. for those with great insurance, to those in developing nations who otherwise don't have any access at all.
No, it sounds fantastic. And you answered some of the questions I had lined up for you. So I definitely can see how your work with NASA had transitioned and contributed to your ability to design these sockets that you are, which on your website, there's some great videos. There's a lot of great information regarding the Slingshot socket. Um, on the website, you state that conventional carbon fiber sockets force the dynamic human limb to fit into a static, rigid, and unforgiving bucket, which, yeah, definitely, I have one of my buckets right here. And like I told you on the phone, that I get so many pressure sores inside my knee that my prosthetist has gone ahead and cut this hole out and to alleviate some of the pressure. But even sometimes that doesn't really work that well. And I just have that going on. And like many other amputees, we have a lot of many bad days of proper
Sure.
fit, of a proper fit. And I'm salivating over the idea of the ability to have a soft structural fabric design, which conforms to my limb shape specifically for me and provides the unprecedented comfort that you are boasting. And uh, will you have both above knee and below knee sockets available at this time? And it seems like you're working on an upper extremity socket, which
We
is
sure are, yeah.
I want to hear a little bit more about that too.
Yeah. Well, will you hold your socket back up for a second?
Yeah, sure.
So just for a picture comparison, here's the Slingshot socket compared to rigid socket. That area on the side of your knee now is completely flexible. It's dynamic. There's really no rigid structure at all to come in contact with. And so our whole socket is literally a fabric-based prosthetic. And so,
Sorry, I'm
there are
drooling right now. I apologize. I really am.
Well, the human limb is sensitive. Our bodies are not designed to bear the weight of our bodies and all the loads that go into the walking motion or running motion or daily life motions around that part of our body. And so now prosthetists have done an amazing job as an industry in being able to sculpt a rigid hard piece of plastic to a dynamic human body and allow someone to be functional on that. But I think in some ways, carbon fiber sockets are a great advancement over wooden sockets from the 1800s. But categorically, they're kind of similar in some ways in that both force the dynamic human limb to fit into a static, rigid, hard something, right? Whether it's wood or carbon fiber. And like your socket, you've got that nice cutaway, you've got a little bit of flexibility, which is hugely helpful, and that's a great thing. But I think when you replace rigid materials with conforming dynamic materials that match to the body in real time, it's a game changer for how the fit is accomplished. So imagine if you're wearing shoes, but your shoes were made of carbon fiber. Forget range of motion issues that you'd have there. But if you had carbon fiber shoes that were perfectly sculpted to your feet, you still have point pressures. The comfort level wouldn't be the same as it could be with a pair of Nikes or Teva sandals, right? And so that's what we're doing with this socket design is we have the conforming materials that dynamically just form fit to the body in real time. And then these straps that go around, these can come in different colors, but these blue straps you see here, as you tighten up just a nice little dial here, it pulls all those straps tight, kind of like laces on your shoe. and then that creates the fit of the socket. And so the fit is not sculpted by a practitioner who is molding to your limb and iterating through check sockets and heat guns and grinders to make a socket fit to your body. The fit of the socket is literally that right there makes the socket fit, which is exactly the same as pulling the laces on your shoe tight, causing the fabric on your shoe to form fit around the foot. And so you end up with that, really intimate fit of a socket. And so fitting this is, kind of back to that accessibility piece. Fitting this type of a socket design is very simple because we're not making those molds, we're not taking those casts, we're not iterating through check sockets and the like. We're literally assembling these parts and pieces around the limb in real time with a without simple hand tools. We have a pair of scissors and a couple Allen wrenches, and we fit the whole socket. And so the fitting process of this is just much faster. I'm typically fitting most of my sockets in under an hour. Amputees have fit their own sockets as well, and they've done so within an hour or two. It's really a pretty simple system, but again, it's kind of back to that same shoe analogy. When the conforming fabrics match to the limb shape versus the limb having to match to a hard piece of plastic, it just makes a world of difference.
Awesome. Yeah, that reminds me of my first couple sockets were in two pieces, a front and back, and they had a tension dial in the back and they had a string that went through, but that
Yep.
string would always break. I was constantly having to go back and get it replaced and fixed, and I'd be out in the middle of nowhere, and my prosthetic would bust and I couldn't walk. And a lot of us, many of us have nerve damage. I myself have complex regional pain syndrome. So it's just a lot of pressure and pain and nerve issues to be putting into a hard, rigid carbon fiber socket. And so I just absolutely love this. And one of the videos on your website shows the gentleman who sits down on the concrete bench and his knee flexes, and that's just like, that's such a dream of mine, because I ride my bike, and when I ride my bike,
Yeah.
and a lot of times I'm hitting bottom and my knee is caught inside my socket, and it's
Yeah.
just not a good thing. So I got to stop and put on like five, a couple different 5-ply socks, and it's just a miserable experience. It really is. And to take a lot of this away would just, I know, would boost our spirits. And the fact that you show people that are swimming and running, and I just absolutely love the idea. And the fact that it's also accessible. And I was going to ask you, because the website states there's 3 different ways to be fitted for the socket. And when I tooled around and was looking at what I would like to have that would benefit me, I got a little lost in it. So can you help explain when people go to the
Sure.
website, what we're meant to actually be trying to do there?
Absolutely. So, from that global accessibility standpoint, in developing nations, 95% of amputees will never have access to prosthetic in their lifetime. And it's not as much a cost factor as it is lack of knowledge, lack of skill set, lack of know-how of how to make conventional prosthetics or equipment needed to do so. So, and I say that just in that there are a number of amputees who maybe don't have access to a local practitioner, you're far from a clinic, or maybe who are just tech savvy or you're mechanically savvy and want to fit their own socket. So we do offer the ability to fit your own prosthetic, but it's a little bit, it's maybe not as solo as it sounds. We have a practitioner team that can get on a FaceTime or Zoom type of call, video call with that user and walk them through. They're the hands, we're the eyeballs, we're kind of still practitioner patient relationship. We're just doing that through a telehealth appointment, so they can fit the prosthesis in their home and not have to go into a clinic. And so that obviously is a great option for many parts of the world, here as well. But really, definitely in other parts of the world where they just don't have access to prosthetists or clinics. We do also have our own clinic. So we have a clinic in Oklahoma City. We'll have more in time, but patients can come here to us, and we love working with amputees firsthand, getting to fit them with these prosthetics. I think that's probably the best option for kind of maximizing the comfort level, just because home court advantage. We fit a lot of these sockets. We know how to fit them really well. And then we can also work with a local practitioner. If you have a great local practitioner that's progressive and is interested in new technology, we can get them equipped and trained with this technology as well, so that they can fit it to you and bill insurance as they normally would. In fact, I encourage any end user to go through the training as well. So we've broken the training down. It's on our website, slingshotbionics.com. There's a tab called Fitting, I think, and you can click on that. It gives you access to the training. And so we've broken the training down into step-by-step short videos. So step one of how to fit the socket, a couple-minute video. Step two, another few-minute video, and just you kind of walk through it step-by-step systematically. And so it makes it really easy to understand the fitting process and where you start, what you do next, etc. And by doing that, if as end users go through that training, and even if you're having a local process do the fitting, you can give them guidance and input, and you're understanding what's going on. And so you're very much a part of that fitting process. You're giving feedback, and the fit of the socket, you're as much in control of the fit of the socket as your practitioner, because you then have that awareness and knowledge of how it's supposed to fit, how it's supposed to be assembled. All that to say, even once the socket is completed, it's fully adjustable. Like, you can still adjust the socket. Technically, you could take the socket back apart and put it back together. It's like a Lego set. It's very, very simple. Again, you only need scissors and a couple Allen wrenches, and you're fitting the entire socket. It's a very simple system. And
that's great.
Yeah, but we want to make that comfort accessible to everyone. So that's why we have the 3 paths for fitting, because some paths are just going to be better suited for certain users. And we want to support everyone in whatever path that they choose, so that they end up with the absolute best, most comfortable socket they've ever had.
That's great. My prosthetist here in Bellingham, Washington, he has 30 years under his belt. He's very innovative, and he would love. He's going to love this. So I want to talk with him about getting this set up, because I think it's going to be a real game changer for me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and being active, and even just with no matter what the amputees activity level is, this can benefit any and all. And there's so many people that are limited as to even being able to don a prosthesis, due to that rigidness and the pain that comes from it. It's difficult to begin wearing a prosthetic, but it's even more so if you're just running into pressure sores
Sure.
and a painful residual limb. Um, I think the coolest part of the website is that each individual can design their own socket, plus you guarantee your workmanship, and I just think that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think that one of the big questions that we get is it durable? And you take a rigid hard carbon fiber socket, and the assumption is that those are very durable, and they should be. They're hard and rigid and static, and they have the durability to them. But when you have fabrics, the idea is that can't be durable because it's so soft and conforming. But actually, these fabrics can hold 1,000 pounds of force. They're
Mm.
incredibly durable materials. We've designed this to really withstand normal daily life, and so we have folks who can run in them and do anything you'd want to do in a normal prosthesis. You can do in this as well, and that durability really matters. And I think I'd probably argue you can maybe even have more durability with conforming materials than you can with rigid materials, because they can give to the limb. Not only is there more durability in the design, like it's not going to break or snap somewhere because it's forming around the limb and dispersing those forces very well, but it also means that as you're doing those activities, it's spreading those loads, and you really don't have any point specific loading on the limb. In fact, we have this exoskeleton frame structure here, but that's never even touching the limb while you're walking. It's the fabric that actually pulls you away from the frame biomechanically, so that you're never up against a hard, rigid element. You're always nesting into a soft, conforming piece of fabric. You had mentioned the brim earlier. One of the most challenging parts of a socket to get comfortable and to keep comfortable, range of motion, sitting comfort for above the knee level users. But the brim of this, BK socket, for instance, it's just a piece of fabric. And so we can actually have a brim that is higher than a normal brim would be, but in sitting, it feels like there's no brim at all. So biomechanically, we give more stability front to back, because we have that full support. But because it's not a rigid part piece of plastic that's jamming up into those hamstring tendons, it just folds underneath the body. And so in sitting, you just have almost like there's nothing there at all. And for above the knee users as well, you have, I have a above the knee socket here. So the brim of this as well, it's all just fabric. And so you sit and there's no rigid structure that you're hitting. You don't even feel anything underneath you. You can feel the seat underneath you. And you know, the walking comfort's great, but sitting comfort is just as important as standing or walking comfort, because we sit, you know, humans sit, some more than others, but we're sitting every day. And yeah, you can bring your knee range of motion back. You're sitting on an airplane and kind of have to tuck your knees back. You have a high range of motion element, or for above the knees, yeah, sitting and tying your shoes, and nothing's poking into your hip bone. Nothing is underneath you when you're sitting. No thick wallet or hump underneath you when you're sitting. It just like that. The sitting comfort is, I think, what almost surprises folks the most about this socket design, is that they just don't feel like they have a prosthesis on anymore.
What is the exoskeleton material made of?
Yeah, so we make this out of aluminum, very
Okay.
lightweight. It's designed to be very strong. It's a robust system. We also have a carbon fiber version of our exoskeleton. So for someone who is maybe over 100 kilograms or 220 pounds, they do carbon fiber. Or if they want to run, or someone who's just a super high activity level, they may go carbon fiber. We do also have a version where we can combine the bottom half of a conventional socket with the top half of the slingshot socket. I have an example here. This would be at above the knee level. You see where we have the
Oh,
bottom
wow.
half is the carbon fiber, the top half is the slingshot. And the reason we do this is maybe if someone has a conventional socket that they, it fits okay, maybe the brim's uncomfortable, but the bottom half is fitting well, we can sometimes convert that over, take the existing socket, basically chop the top 2/3 of it off, and add our slingshot components, and basically make the brim and the body of the socket ultra comfortable, but maintain the distal containment and the alignment of their conventional sockets. That may be even a simple option for them to get into the slingshot socket without having to go through kind of a full fitting, or even without having to fit it themselves, because it would come kind of pre-assembled, since we'd have that full conventional socket as a template to work from.
Wow, that's crazy cool. You mentioned, yeah, the durability, and what usually happens on these ones is it ends up cracking, and
Yep.
then we're having to epoxy and epoxy and epoxy until I get fitted for a new prosthesis. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
other thing I was thinking about. You mentioned taking out the elements of needing to be casted and then waiting for the check socket, because a lot of times for me what happens is, wh- when I get casted a couple weeks later, when I get my test socket, I'm not the same shape. I'm not even
Oh,
fit. I haven't fitted in a
bodies are
lot of the
dynamic.
test sockets. Yeah. So
Mhm.
again, it just prolongs the time where I'm getting back into a better fitting socket. And it's been a while actually since I've had a socket that I really feel has fit really well. I've really shrunk down in the last 2 years more than I have over the prior 7, but I just need something that's going to work with me. And I know
Yeah.
I'm not the only one who feels this way. Really
Well,
exciting.
so there's an interesting irony of your limb changes volume, so therefore you need a new socket. But when you get a new socket, your limb has to adjust to the feel of that new socket. So a new socket is maybe more comfortable and less comfortable at the same time, because there's kind of new points you're having to get used to, of pressure points and whatnot. So I was fitting a patient recently, and his feedback was very interesting. I fit him with the above the knee level socket, like this one. Fast fitting, within an hour he's up and walking, or probably like half hour he's up and walking on it. And his first time walking, I said, "Hey, how's that feel?" And he goes, "Oh, this is weird. This is weird." And I'm like thinking, "Oh no, that doesn't sound good." And he goes, "What's really weird is that when I normally walk on my prosthetic and I take a step, I can feel that my foot hit the ground because I have pressure points in my socket. Not that they hurt, but he could feel the pressure points in the socket, knowing that he has that ground reaction force, that he touched the ground and he has that feedback." And he goes, "In this socket, I just can't feel the socket at all. It feels like an even hug around my limb, but I don't feel any pressure points, and so I don't have that feedback." of when my foot hits the ground. And I thought it was a really good thing, and he thought it was a good thing as well. He's like, I need to get used to this because I used to feel my socket, and now I just don't feel it, and because it's so comfortable. And he really liked that. But I thought that was a good example of, even with a brand new prosthetic, a brand new socket, not only is it comfortable, but like there was no feeling of having a socket. In fact, folks will often articulate that as like, I don't feel like I'm wearing my prosthetic at all, even though I have it on and I'm walking. So therefore, it feels like an extension of my own leg again, which is a really, really cool feedback to hear folks say that. And I hear that a lot.
I'm glad to hear that because I personally, and it's better now than it used to be, but when my tibia started doing this bending motion,
Mm-hmm.
in a rigid socket, I mean, it was excruciating. It absolutely was the worst pain of any that I've experienced at times. Like just take my breath away, hurt my stomach, just terrible pain. And
Yeah.
now now over this with this particular most recent socket I have, I've been developing a fluid pocket down in there, and
Mm.
and that's causing pain. So I like that I can see in the below knee socket that it would just be my liner and not up against the end of the
Mm-hmm.
or the inside of the bottom of the socket. And again, I brought up bottoming out, which is so common. It doesn't seem like that would really be an issue with the slingshot socket. And so
Mm-hmm.
I I could see how it would feel weird to not have, because I also, recognize what your other limb loss individual was mentioning about feeling that step because of the pressure in
Mm-hmm.
your socket. But I think it just takes a matter of getting used to. I think the true test. I'm going to test it out when I get my slingshot socket. I think the true test is going to be if I can put on a pair of shoes with a shoehorn without having to take my prosthetic off.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got the full range of motion to do so now.
Yeah, because that's a toughie.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Well,
no,
and it's those little things that matter so much in quality of life. It's not just does it hurt or not, can I walk or not. It's also that stuff like that, range of motion to put your own shoes on without having to take it off. Like that's an important factor.
absolutely. It coincides with the mission statement for Slingshot Bionics, which I saw on your Facebook page. It's about restoring quality of life previously lost due to uncomfortable sockets.
Mm-hmm.
And as grateful as we all are for our prosthesis, and
Mm-hmm.
it just, and I've brought this up with my practitioner so many times, like, when is there going to be something that's just more updated and
Yeah.
usable, user friendly for us these days? And it seems like, well, you found me. You reached out to me through the Amputee Coalition, and I'm really grateful for that because I need the change. I need and this is positive, and I look forward to uh, being an advocate for slingshot sockets, Jay.
No, well, thank you for that, and that's super encouraging. And again, from that global accessibility standpoint, I think we've solved was some of the biggest challenges to having quality of life with conventional prosthetics. Again, great job for all the prosthetists. I'm a prosthetist too. Great job at the prosthetists community to be able to sculpt sockets to limbs and get people functional. That has been amazing. But you think of every other device that interfaces with the human body in our world around us: shoes, car seats, backpacks, our clothes. They're all conforming and matched to us versus us having to match to a rigid hard piece of plastic. That's the only thing I can think of is conventional prosthetics where the dynamic human body is forced to match to a hard piece of plastic. And so I think that this innovation has been amazing to get to work with. It's been really an honor to get to be part of this project, this program, and and I'm just so excited for the dissemination of awareness of this because there are so many folks. Like we have a bunch of traffic to our website right now, which has been great, a little overwhelming in a good way. And we see the comments that folks are making when they fill out one of the questionnaires on our website. And so many of these comments have to do with being limited in their quality of life in one way or another. Their prosthesis hurts, it's uncomfortable, they have sitting they don't wear it when they're sitting because it's uncomfortable or it's hot or sweaty. All the different normal quality of life things that go on with prosthetics. I think we solved, at least to a large degree, so many of these factors, and maybe not for everyone. I mean, maybe nothing's probably for everyone, but the vast majority of folks that we fit with this have done a tremendous job with it. They love it. It's been really transformative for them, and so we're just really excited to get that awareness disseminated out, so more and more folks who have struggles with conventional prosthetics now have an option for something that may be more comfortable for them.
I think it's so cool. I was reminded of another video on your website of the guy who's jumping into the pool, because I love to go swimming, and when I dive
Yeah.
into the pool, my socket just fills up with water, and all of a sudden there's
Mhm.
that pressure and that resistance, and obviously that's not an issue with the slingshot socket when you're in water.
Yeah, so these are fabrics. They do get wet, and that's okay because you can actually take the whole fabric inner socket out of the exoskeleton, throw it in the washing machine, and then throw it in the dryer, and then put it back on. So you can clean it very easily, just like you would any other clothes. And so yeah, it is designed to get wet. I feel that prosthetics should do whatever the user wants to do with them. I mean, there's maybe some limitations in there somewhat, but I mean, I think in general the prosthesis is meant to serve the user, not the user serve the limitations of the prosthesis. And so, if you want to get it wet, jump in the pool. You want to wash it, get it muddy, whatever happens to it, throw it in the washing machine, dry it off, and throw it back on the next day. Like it's meant to serve the user.
I love it. I've also started Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, which I like to do with my
Wow,
prosthesis off, but I am taking the Muay Thai boxing classes,
impressive.
and that's difficult because I have to shift over. I'm right-handed, so I have to go southpaw to really protect my prosthesis and the
Hmm.
socket. I think that could be a lot more user friendly if I had a slingshot socket to try that out with.
Amazing.
And
Well, you have to share your feedback on how that worked out for you. That'd be fun to get to see a video of that.
yeah, yeah, we'll work on that. And no, really, honestly, I'm just I'm really thankful and I'm really impressed, and I appreciate what you're doing for our limb loss community. And though I did want to go back to the upper limb
Oh yes.
option. So what is that going to look like, and how soon do you think that might be ready?
Yeah, so I'm hoping to launch upper extremity this year, and so I think that's a relatively easy project for us to get across the finish line. It's very similar parts and pieces. It's just configured around the upper extremity versus this is below the knee. You saw the above the knee as well, but very similar parts and pieces. Very similar methodology of fitting. So still fabric-based prosthetics, micro exoskeleton frame to form around that just that part of the body, but upper extremity is actually a lot easier to develop than lower extremity because you don't have nearly the same forces as you have in lower extremity. You have the weight bearing forces in standing, but in upper extremity, you just have something around the limb and maybe something pulling out from the limb if you're carrying something or whatnot. But it's actually a much easier problem to solve. So we focused on launching lower extremity first because that's the larger population. But we do have upper extremity and also hip dysarticulation coming
Mm,
this year.
wow, amazing! It just this is bar none going to be the wave of the future. I can tell. I can
I
feel it.
hope so.
Yeah, and I don't want to ask you what's next because this is so new, and but I'm sure you've probably already got some ideas.
One of the challenging parts for me is that I love creating, I love innovating, and there's still so much opportunity for it. I mean, as advanced as and great as this design is, there's my wheels haven't stopped turning, and so I already have the next generation designs that are being developed. I wouldn't say the next generation designs are scrapping this and starting afresh. It's really adding to, adding more kind of maturity and more options, new suspension methods. There's some really cool stuff coming along that we'll be launching this year as well. It's just really building off the same platform. And so, and as that happens, just I think we get to serve more folks and make the fitting process even simpler and even faster, and again, give more accessibility to that global amputee population.
Yes. Thank you for that. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much because the purpose of me having this Amputee for Life podcast is to reach out to um, the limb loss community and provide opportunities for everyone who tunes in to be able to know that it doesn't have to be a dark and dreary life.
Yeah.
We can support each other, and we have folks like you, professionals, that are supporting us as well and want to see us achieve our goals and live our best lives. And so, honestly, from all of us in the limb loss community, thank you so very much. And I will post a link to your website uh, on this podcast episode. But also, if you want to go ahead and let us know how people can reach you, what's the best way to get a hold of you and Slingshot
Uh,
Bionics?
yeah, absolutely. Well, and thank you for just advocating for the community and sharing, great content, because that is, I think awareness is one of the most important factors for really impacting quality of life for folks. Because if they never learn about Slingshot Socket or other products or other services or opportunities that folks have out there, then they get stuck in with only what they know in front of them. So thank you for that. To get a hold of us, probably the best way is going to our website, slingshotbionics.com. And on there's a lot of great information. Again, I encourage folks to go through the training yourself. Whether you fit your own socket or have a practitioner fit, it doesn't matter. Just get familiar with the technology, get familiar with how it works, how it's fit. You can give feedback to your practitioner, during the process as well. There's some forms on there or some questionnaire. There's a button you can click to ask us questions, I should say. And so any questions you have, real simple, is put your name in there, ask your question. It goes to our customer service team. We can respond back. Our phone number is on there. Call us. We're here to serve the community, answering any questions we have, really helping everyone assess what's the right configuration for them, or even if it's the right configuration for them. I mean, in some cases, maybe a conventional socket is better for some, but we want to walk everyone through that process and really help the community achieve the greatest quality of life possible with a prosthesis. And I think in a lot of cases, having conforming, adjustable materials can really be a big piece of that. But however we can serve the community, we want to do so. Again, both here and in other parts of the world. So I'm sure you have reach outside the U.S. as well. And so we want to serve everyone with exceptional care and quality products.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's so cool. I'm thinking, okay, I like that socket there. And I also like the one that you showed that still had the carbon fiber bottom. I
Yeah,
mean, maybe there would be times I would want that. I don't know. But,
sure. You
it's
have the
great that
option.
there's the options. That's the beautiful thing. So, Jay
It is.
Martin, thank you so very much. I really appreciate your time today and what you're doing. And I look forward to touching base with you again in the future.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure and honor to get to be part of your show. And thank you so much.
Absolutely. Looks like you have a beautiful day there in Oklahoma City.
It is. Spring is finally here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks again, Jay, and take care.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us today on Amputee for Life. Please stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, stay well, be safe, and please remember to enjoy the little things.